Hey, how's everyone doing? This is Rob Adams of the Actors Workshop, and you are once again in the Abyss, and we are in 1987. This is going to be one of those episodes where I do the music first and then the movie, so don't fast forward. There's a method to the madness. Not a lot of music today, but a couple that I really wanted to point out that I felt was pretty important to show. So we'll get right at it. I'm going to start with the most popular album in 1987, U2's Joshua Tree. What can I say? It's a great record. Where the streets have no name, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. With or without you, bullet the blue sky, in God's country. I mean, just big hits. Red Hill Mining Town's another fun song. Mothers of the Disappeared to end it. It's a really really good album, and it's probably the most popular of 1987. I actually saw him on this tour right at the beginning, so it was before they really exploded. So I saw him at the San Diego Sports Arena, so I got to see him in that smaller, quaint um, vibe, which was really really cool because it wasn't too much longer that they blew up and started doing stadium tours, which completely is a different experience. So it was cool to be able to see him during this tour, and it was right as it was getting going. But a really really strong record. In 1987, I have a tie for my favorite, and just to kind of give you a quick background. Um, there was no way to find music back in the old days, or like sample it. You didn't have a Spotify or an Amazon Music, or even like an iTunes where you could sample 30 seconds. You would either hear it on the radio or you saw the music video, and you had to basically blind buy the album, and for one song, sometimes maybe two songs. And it was kind of fun because that's how you learn about new movies and you learn about new music and stuff like that, is by just going, oh, I kind of like that song, I'm going to buy the album. Nowadays you just buy the song, so you don't get to really experience a lot more than just the song you happen to hear. Sometimes I'd even go into Tower Records and I would start at A and I'd just start flipping through, and if I like the name or I like the cover, I'd take a risk, and that time is done. And it's unfortunate because it was part of the buying experience back in the day. And these two albums really, really are a product of that. There was a show on MTV called Headbangers Ball, and it was basically a segment basically made of heavy metal videos. And both of these albums had a song that I had heard on the Headbangers Ball, and I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that album. I'd go to Tower the next day, and I'd buy the record and really get to enjoy the journey. And these two records are both up on my wall of my favorite record of all time, and I have 7 of them up there, and these two are up there, and that's how important they are to me. And I still listen to these over and over and over and over and over again. They're just wonderful. So the first one is Helloween, kind of a power metal band, kind of in vein of like the Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, but a little faster. You get the dual guitars with Kai Hansen and Michael Weeketh, and then you have Michael Kiske on vocals, and then you have Ingo behind the drums, and Marcus Grossoff playing bass. And it's just a really, really, really strong record. It opens up with I'm Alive. You have a Little Time on here, Tale That Wasn't Right, Future World, but really it's capped off by the 13-minute plus song Helloween. And what's interesting is the video is about 5 minutes long. It's an edited version. So when I saw the video and bought the record, and then I put the needle down, I'm listening to Helloween, and it turns out it's 13 plus minutes. It's like, wow, this is a lot better than the edited version. So it was really enjoyable. And the only time I had ever heard the edited version was on the video. But on this limited edition, they did some bonus tracks, and one of the bonus tracks is the edited version. So I'm able to have that now, which is kind of cool, but I don't ever listen to it. I only listen to the original version, which is the long version. But it's just a really strong, really good album, and it's one of my favorites. And if you see, the artwork, it's really, really strong. Like I said, this is Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1. They have a Part 2, and then Keeper of the Seven Keys, The Legacy, many years later. But Part 1 is definitely a must listen to. It is tied with Savatage, Hall of the Mountain King. What's cool about Savatage is we talked earlier about some bands that were kind of influenced by the blues and then others influenced by classical. Savatage is definitely influenced by the classical side. And yes, Hall of the Mountain King is actually a classical song by Craig. Um, and they do that song on here in a kind of heavy metal version, and they call it Prelude to Madness. And then their Hall of the Mountain King is an original with lyrics and the regular sound and such. But you do definitely get that heavy metal feel. The videos I saw off of this were 24 Hours Ago and Strange Wings, which maybe by the record, and I still love those songs today. But then you also discover Beyond the Doors of the Dark, The Price You Pay, which I still put on compilations all the time. I love that song. Devastation. It's just a really good. White Witch is great. Legions. That's another one. I mean, this whole album is just phenomenal. And it's two brothers that started the band, John and Chris Oliva, and we'll talk about them a little bit more down the road in a couple years. But this was definitely, with Helloween's Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1, my favorite albums of 1987. And once again, if you look at the artwork, it's just the details and everything. I know it's not great to see, but you get the idea. And it's just one of my favorites. And Chris Oliva is one of my favorite all-time musicians, guitar players. He's pretty special in the music world for me. So Savatage, Hall of the Mountain King. All right, moving on to the movies. We're going to start with a couple quick comedies. 3 O'Clock High, kind of a fun comedy. The kind of nice kid who works at the student store, who does everything right, straight A student, tries to befriend a new student at the school who kind of has a reputation. He touches him, which causes the new kid to challenge him to a fight at 3 o'clock after school. And basically, this is a whole movie of that day with the clock ticking down, of him trying to figure out a way to get out of this fight. And I kind of like the movies where it's just filmed in a day, right? The whole movie is a day. And that's one of these right here. And it's a fun comedy if you've never seen it. Next up, one you guys probably have seen, Mel Brooks' Spaceballs, John Candy, Rick Moranis, Bill Pullman. Spoof on Star Wars is a lot of fun. You know, my Schwartz is bigger than yours. You know, great one-liner. You know, you got Rick Moranis' Dark Helmet. It's hilarious. Not as good as Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, but definitely another fun movie to watch. Next one, young Charlie Sheen, No Man's Land. He's also a D.B. Sweeney in this. Kind of a undercover cop story. Charlie Sheen is a thief of Porsches, and he sells the parts. And you know, it's a good movie. It's one of those ones that I remember watching in the 80s and really enjoying, and still to this day is a fun film to watch. All right. Robocop. Most of us know it. This is the classic. Nancy Allen, once again, we've talked about her a ton. It's a good, fun movie. And you know, it's funny because I was thinking about this last night. I'm starting to pull these movies going, oh yeah, I remember watching this in the movie theater. Robocop is one of those movies. And I was thinking, how come I saw so many movies when I was younger at the movie theaters, and then now I can't stand going to movie theaters? Well, here's the thing. I probably couldn't stand it back then, but it was the only way I was able to go see the movie. Now you can wait a couple months and you can buy the movie, and you know, you don't have to really go unless you really want to. And yeah, this is one of those ones that's really, really fun. It's an unrated version, so it gives you a little bit more. But yeah, it's Robocop. Another one I saw in the theater, Predator. I mean, what can you say? To me, this is Schwarzenegger's best film. And we talk about actors who understand a formula. Schwarzenegger is one of those people. He just understood who he was, and he marketed on that. And it didn't matter if it was movies like Terminator or Predator, where he was tough and badass, or it was movies like Kindergarten Cop and Twins, where it was a little bit more comedic and lighthearted. He was always Arnold Schwarzenegger, really understood that, and was really, really good, especially in this era. And I think for me, you know, and I think for many, Predator is that iconic film. It's really a lot of fun. You know, you have Carl Weathers, you know, who played Apollo and Rocky in it, and they have that famous scene where they shake hands and they show the muscles. I mean, they're as ripped as you could be in any kind of movie. But anyways, another good sci-fi thriller, horror, whatever you want to call them, suspense, really good fun film. Speaking of horror, we move on to Clive Barker's Hellraiser, and yes, that's starring Pinhead. Um, it's one of those movies that you either love or you hate, and it's more about the genre and the story than it is about the movie itself. Clive Barker was ahead of his time with the ideas of this kind of stuff, and it created Pinhead to be such an iconic character. So even if you hadn't seen the movies or you haven't, you know who Pinhead is. And for me, the first three are just really, really good, especially the first two. Third one is strong. It's another one I saw in the movie theater, so I have a little bit of attachment to it because I remember seeing it. But, you know, the first Hellraiser got it all going, and it's a good one. All right, another popular one you guys know, but I had to mention it, is Fatal Attraction. Michael Douglas, Ann Archer, Glenn Close. To me, this is Glenn Close's best performance. She was terrific in this. Michael Douglas was great. Michael Douglas is another one of these guys who just knows who he is, knows his formula, and did it for a long time, and made several movies like this. You know, Basic Instinct, Disclosure, to name a couple. But this one, for me, is just great. And I remember back in the day, people saying, if you ever thought about cheating, just watch Fatal Attraction. It would change your mind. It's that good and it's that powerful. All right, so we're going to move on to the lighter side. Another movie you guys all probably know, but I had to mention, Princess Bride, classic, fun. The way that the grandpa tells the boy the story, and then the way they show the story. And like I said, it's just a fun story. And if you haven't seen it, that's unconceivable. Another fun one from 87 is Overboard. Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell. We've talked about Kurt Russell a lot in the last couple episodes. This is another great fun one. They tried to remake it. You can't remake movies that are already done great, right? They fail, and the remake failed. And I like Anna Faris, but it doesn't work. When you have the chemistry these two have, you leave it alone. The original Overboard is the way to go. Another fun one, Elizabeth Shue, Adventures in Babysitting. It is great. She has to go get her friend who's stuck downtown, and it's all the crap that happens to them when they're downtown while she's babysitting. It's a lot of fun. The kids are great. The story's great. Elizabeth Shue is off the charts. A really, really fun, lighthearted comedy. Staying on the comedy trail, another one you guys all probably know, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Steve Martin, John Candy, stuck together trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and it's all the shenanigans that happen between the two of them. And it's another one of those movies where they were really good together, and it was a one-off. It was the one time you got to see them, and it really stands the test of time. I think this is one movie during the holidays that people break out and they watch, because even though it's not really a holiday movie, it's a holiday movie. And it's a lot of fun, and it's good comedy. And John Candy being John Candy and Steve Martin being Steve Martin, and you have that, relationship that is really, really good. Okay. Michael J. Fox, Secret of My Success. So after the first Back to the Future, and then, he starts making the other Back to the Futures, he starts doing a series of fun, romantic comedies, and Secret of My Success is the first in that line, starring Helen Slater. And he goes to work at a corporation trying to work his way up, and comes up with some schemes and ideas of how to fast forward that idea, and that is the secret of his success. And it's fun to watch because the acting is really good. Once again, it's lighthearted, it's fun, and it has a lot of memorable moments and songs in it. So if you haven't seen this one, you need to watch it. Another romantic comedy from 1987. As you start to see, there's a theme of these kinds of movies going on now. We're in the mid-'80s, but it's Patrick Dempsey and Can't Buy Me Love. Another classic romantic comedy where he's kind of the goof, and he pays the head cheerleader to be his girlfriend for a month, and they end up getting along and liking each other, but they can't do that. They can't show that, and it doesn't work, and it's all of the shenanigans that goes on. But another really fun film. Okay, down to my last couple. Summer School, Mark Harmon. He's a PE teacher who gets stuck having to teach English to the summer school class. And it's, once again, I keep using the word shenanigans, but it's all the shenanigans that happens. He basically pays the kids to learn in not in money ways, but in favor ways, like helping one of them drive, helping one of them with their football skills, helping another one with, this or that. And it's all the things that they do instead of actually doing schooling. It also stars Kirstie Alley, and they have a great chemistry in this, and it's really a fun, strong movie, and it's one that I watch over and over again, and it's one that my kids really, really like, and it's definitely one of the top for 1987. All right, down to my final three, and once again, these are tough when I get to this point because it depends on what day, I'm dealing here, and so for today, this is the order I'm going with. Some Kind of Wonderful, Eric Stoltz, Leah Thompson, Mary Stuart Masterson. I was a huge Mary Stuart Masterson guy in the day, and this was like her iconic role. It's a John Hughes film. He did all of those great films in the 80s, and it's just a fun love story. Craig Sheffer as Leah Thompson's boyfriend plays the jerk role perfectly. It's just a really, really good movie, and it's definitely one of my favorites from the 80s. Quick story behind Eric Stoltz, and this is why as actors we have to be confident in what we do, and we have to be secure in what we do. He was actually hired as Marty McFly in Back to the Future, and a couple weeks into filming, they basically fired him not because he was a bad actor, because he's not, he's a great actor, but because he didn't fit how they saw Marty McFly. And there's nothing you can do if you don't fit the vision of the people making the movie. So instead of him curling up in a ball and hating his career and wanting to quit, he just kept pressing forward, and Eric Stoltz has had a phenomenal career, whether him being the drug dealer in Pulp Fiction or him being in a movie like this. He's had a great career, and he's a really strong actor, and it's a testament to who he is as a person, to work through the negatives to build the positives. And this was, a first of many that he did a great job at. And him with the girls, awesome. All right. My runner-up, No Way Out, Kevin Costner, Sean Young, Gene Hackman, Will Patton. Is really, really good. This is another one I remember seeing in the theaters, and I just loved it. And I will watch this every time it's on TV. I'll break it out and watch it. It's just a really, really good suspense, thriller, mystery. Keeps you on the edge of your pants. And then once again, or the edge of your seat. You got Gene Hackman. He's just so good and so natural that his role in this is so strong, with Will Patton as his assistant and them dealing with the situation they're dealing with. And I don't want to give too much away because I want you to watch it. But it's just so good. And it's definitely one of my favorites. And it was really tough between these last three, Some Kind of Wonderful, this, and then the one I decided to go with number one, and that is Wall Street. Second time we're talking about Michael Douglas this year. Second time we're talking about Charlie Sheen. You add in Martin Sheen, you add in Daryl Hannah, and it's a really, really strong movie. But the banter and the cohesiveness and the teamwork between Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen is really what makes this work. And then you add Terrence Stamp as Michael Douglas's rival in this, and you just have some phenomenal acting. You have one of the most famous scenes, right? Greed is good, greed is right. I mean, Gordon Gekko is an iconic character in film history. So it was really hard to go against this one at number one. It is a really strong movie, and it's really fun to watch, and it never gets old. So, at the last second, I ended up going with Wall Street as my number one. So all three of these top three are really, really good, but at least for today, Wall Street is my number one. All right, so there you have it. Wall Street in 1987 for the film side, Helloween's Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1, and Savatage's Hall of the Mountain King on the music side. We go into 1988 tomorrow. We got some more surprises, a lot more stacks of films. Hope you look forward to it. Leave your comments in the comment section. Subscribe, hit the like button, do all the things I ask you to do, and we'll see you tomorrow.